Okay, it's exactly 11:30. I'm going to call to order the March 26th meeting of the Legislative Committee. Can we get a roll call?
Sure. Member Chaplin? Here. Member Childress?
Yes.
Chair Desart?
Here.
Member Eckhoff?
Here.
Member Galassi? Vice Chair Zay?
Thank you. We do have a quorum. Next, I move to approve 24-0996, the legislative minutes of the regular meeting from Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
No public comment. Thank you. Regarding chairwoman's remarks, I made all of the remarks I had in county board today, so thank you.
You know, we get those emailed to us too.
But who reads them besides me and Cheryl?
No one.
And probably now you're.
We're starting to return receipt.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for traffic on the sevens with when you read yours.
Sorry.
So next I move to approve our action item 24-0997, the action item key bill list 3-26-2024. All right, it's been moved by me and seconded by member Chaplin. And I just wanted to say, and then I'll turn it over to Cheryl and to other questions that I particularly have been watching these. On page 1, the very last item, the transfer of impact fee funds to transfer remaining impact fee revenues to a transportation account.
Yeah.
These are some things that DuPage County has been watching for a long time. On page 2, way up the top, the safe gun storage information, reducing the use of plastic for environmental chair Rutledge. SB 3521, the Behavioral Health Recovery Center Grant Pilot Program. I was wondering if we could use some grant money for the CRC.
That's our goal.
It's to develop an implemented behavioral health recovery center project. And then on page 3, I highlighted the wildlife killing contest, the fur-bearing mammals. And when I first saw this, it came to mind because, believe it or not, I myself have been involved in wildlife killing contests, fishing contests. But this was only fur-bearing mammals, so I have not done that, thankfully, sorry. I'm just admitting, I've killed fish before. Okay, Cheryl, you want to go into more depth?
Yeah, I'll just walk through, you all have this bill list.
Yeah.
Yes. So normally, so in an election year, as most of you know, they move very few bills.
Yes.
From the ones that are introduced. I'm still tracking about 300 bills on our bill list. The House is out this week, the Senate's out for 2 weeks. So it's a really short session this year because of the primary. So many of the committee deadlines have already passed. So what I tried to do this year, because there's so few bills, normally I have a list of 30, 40 bills. This is a little bit shorter because 1, things aren't moving, and 2, I just tried to tie a key bill list to our agenda. So that I want you to know, number 1, there are some bills to implement what your priorities are. Some are not, but we do have a number of bills on this list that tie to this. So just really briefly going over this document, LGDF, of course, it's always an issue. All the municipal leagues are making a very big push to increase that this year. Chair Conroy has talked to the mayors. I mean, we are recommending that you try not to push for, 7, 8, 9% overnight, that you use a phased in approach, which is more palatable to the state because the state's losing revenues. The more they give us, the less money they have. So House Bill 4455, it's in a subcommittee right now, but it'll be probably end of session negotiated item. So we're hoping to get more. The county does currently get about 15.2 million in LGDF revenues. So you increase that, a percent, it's a couple $1 million. So it is very important to us. Member you, and it's in our state agenda, was very supportive and asked us to include House Bill 4469, Senate Bill 2633. That is a bill that will require law enforcement, if someone does have a weapon and there's an order of protection against them, to remove that weapon. Jason got the numbers for me this morning from the circuit court clerk. And I think there's 4 different types of restraining orders, and I think there's only, what, Jason, 53 that had firearms last year? 52. So to Grant Eckhoff, he always asks me what the cost of everything is. This would be about, the sheriff would have to, if there was an order of protection, say, against you, and you had a weapon, would be required to go get that weapon. So we're not talking about thousands of cases, but it would be,
Lots of times.
53.
Them out of the house too, so.
right.
Well, and another time it's not the gun, like that Chicago incident where that little boy Jaden, the 11-year-old was stabbed to death when there wasn't yeah.
Right. So there is a cost, but of course there's a cost. Someone, victim dies, so you can't, no, I can't really put the cost on that. Unfortunately, remember you were, the bill has stalled. It did not get out of committee. There were over 2,000 opponents to the bill.
How
So
would they oppose it?
take their guns away.
Uh,
This is a temporary, right, until the case has been adjudicated. They're not taking your guns away permanently. It's just until it's adjudicated. So if you're found innocent, you would get your weapon back, but it's been introduced several, this has been around, but it did get referred to subcommittee in the Senate, the House. It's still sitting in committee because of the opposition, but
But it looks to me, unless I'm reading it wrong, that it's only when you have an order of protection against you.
correct.
So the don't take my guns away people, do all 2,000 have an order of protection against them?
You know,
It
it's
just doesn't make
this-
sense to me.
I didn't hear the committee hearing, but I would say you're taking your foot in the door. It's a step,
Yeah.
right? No matter what social issue you're looking at, it's.
Sure, may I just indicate, individuals who are at this stuff typically, regardless if it's limiting even to the most minute amount, they'll oppose it. And I would say that's probably for both sides of that issue, that they'll either support it. That's just how it's historically worked out.
Yeah, but we'll keep it on our list, and obviously the committee has indicated their support. The mental health professional grant program, this is something that will be negotiated at the end of session. The bill right under it, there is a cost. So we all know our health department has told us they are trying to recruit, 7 to 11 new staff to run the crisis recovery center. We're having a hard time finding people. So we had put in our state agenda incentives to encourage more individuals to pursue degrees in different types of mental health counseling and substance use disorder. The cost right now, that this has not been decided to be end of session, is about 40 million, maybe, less to start this program. But I think as we were discussing, there's a cost for not providing mental health services and having access to people who need them. So it's hopefully it'll move forward, but again, it's a budget into session type item. Member Dessert had talked about our initiative, House Bill 5574. The Senate bill is not moving, but the House bill is. Our transportation department asked us for this legislation because when the board removed the impact fee, the way the remaining funds, which is about 2 million, are allocated, they're allocated by township. And the problem is some townships have 50,000, some townships have 2 million. So it's hard to do a countywide project under the impact fee regulations in that one township. We want to take all the money, put it in our transportation account so that every township could benefit from our project because they can't really spend it the way it's segregated right now. So we expect the House bill to pass.
Member
That's
Chaplin?
what I was gonna ask. So that's my concern because we're kind of hamstring until this is passed.
Correct.
So it's important that this, we send that message to the Senate if it's being stalled there. Come on, guys, push it through.
Right.
So, yeah.
Member
Exactly.
Guston?
And this will only be used specifically for roads.
For
and
county, it has to be
infrastructure
for county mitigation, traffic mitigation projects.
Only.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So it won't go to some other budget item.
No, only transportation, but the transportation committee will be able to set the parameters of how you want to spend that money. Because right now, because the pots vary so much, they can't find a congestion mitigation project for $50,000. They can build sidewalks, I guess, but they need to have the funds aggregated into a pot. And so it's just giving the county the flexibility to spend those funds as you see fit.
Any other questions or comments about that one?
No,
Member
not
Chaplin?
that one.
Oh, okay. Let's move on to the next one. It's Cheryl.
Yeah, the Safe Gun Storage, this committee, Member Chaplin, we've talked about for a long time. I think it would be a very minimal cost to a school. But But that bill is also in the firearms subcommittee, so it's not moving right now, but they did pass a bill a few years ago to require the Illinois Department of Public Health to do a public safety campaign, but they didn't fund it, so they're not doing it,
Ah,
just so you know. So
I'm gonna go out and do it.
I know, it
Yeah,
doesn't
right.
seem like it should be a hard thing to do, but to your point, it's a major concern. Children and others being killed by firearms and aren't stored properly in people's homes. Senate Bill 2960, the hotel industry is actually very much in support of this legislation. So we have an environmental bill that industry supports. It's very exciting. Because if you've been to a hotel recently, everyone uses those shampoo, conditioner, body wash
Mhm.
containers in the shower.
Yes, yes.
They're getting rid of those little bottles,
Yes, they are. Yes, they
which
are.
is a huge saving to the environment. So this is an agreed bill. So it starts off with, larger hotels and smaller hotels getting rid of the single-use plastics, but the hotel industry is in support. So that's moving and there's no opposition to that.
Well, what, what about water and liquor? How are they gonna get those little airplane bottles? They're gonna put a little
How
bottle,
big phase those?
Little-
Vodka and-
little-
Different
that's
issue.
Right, they'll put them in a little,
Is that what you're worried about, Jim?
small, single-use plastic bottle. That means
Yeah, but we go back to glass.
They're
Many-
just gonna
many
have to
bars
give
are
you
gonna-
the
many
fifth
bars
of
are
vodka,
gonna-
that's all.
It's
When the
gonna be-
airlines-
No more
airlines
small
have
bottles.
Cheryl?
You're a beer drinker anyway.
The next bill, Senate Bill 3077, this has been a big, concern that member Chaplin's raised and others. Right now, there's actually a local food infrastructure grant program. I don't know if you saw it in the clips last week. This would make it permanent, but what it's doing is it's helping the smaller farms and co-ops with less than 50 employees to under the current program, this would make it permanent. A farm was able to build a better kitchen and storage facility so they could get, whether it's, meat, chickens, hogs, or sometimes it's just crops in the field. The problem is they have no way to store, process, and distribute that, say, up north. So if you're a downstate farm, small-time farmer, you don't have the ability when there's corn or other things left in your field, you don't have the capacity to get that to a market. And so this is what this bill concentrates on. Senator Kaler from Peoria is sponsoring it. It's moving. There doesn't seem to be a lot of opposition. There is a cost. Remember, a gulp of 2 million, but I think it's been a priority of this committee to try and get fresh produce and more food to families that are in need. I know,
When people come-
but it addresses, addresses the food
You
desert.
can work on that in
and
your
the
next
price.
41 years here.
Yes,
Okay?
I will get right on it. Zero-based budgeting, yeah. The next bill, Chair Desart mentioned behavioral health recovery. This is a bill that the health department and I drafted. We're trying to set up a pilot program because we know we're gonna need help with the operations. We have construction covered for the CRC. The health department, they're struggling to put together an operations plan because it's hard to predict right now how much private insurance is gonna cover. Medicaid, we expect will be about 40% of the operations costs, but Medicaid rates are very low. So that's why further legislation, we're trying to support an increase in some of those Medicaid rates. So we don't have an appropriation for this yet. This is again, a budget item that the Senate Appropriations Committee will look at. And then there's other counties that want to start this too. So it would be a pilot program for counties that want to, expand their mental health treatment options.
And when you say starting, you're not suggesting that they're building their own building like we are, right?
I suppose some existing facilities perhaps could have a pilot program. I don't know. Majority of health departments in this state do not provide mental health. We're very unique. Most counties have a countywide 708 board type structure. We're actually gonna do research on that because I've been told most health departments don't provide mental health. So it's kind of unique in that respect. But I think the point is to try and, we have 988, somewhere to call.
Yeah.
You need somewhere to go to be assessed, and then you gotta work on the treatment capacity. So there's like 3 different, we have 988 covered, if we can market it, keep going. We need to really have the CRC's structure so that you're being assessed properly, you're not going to the emergency room. And then, of course, we need to expand treatment as well, which is kind of on the back end of this. Which goes into the next bill. The health department is really pushing, I'm sure it won't happen this year, but we really do need increased Medicaid rates there isn't an overnight rate now, which is why the CRC can only hold you for 23 and a half hours because you have to be assessed, but then you have to either go to a hospital, go back home with a plan, go to another treatment center. So Medicaid rates, because actually private insurance is starting to catch up with mental health care coverage slowly. Medicaid rates are falling behind. So that's why this is on here. And I don't have a cost for this. The Battery Stewardship Act, I'm sure, Member Rutledge is familiar with this. Joy Hens gave us an extra handout on this bill. As you know, there's been a lot of fires at recycling centers because of the disposal, of lithium batteries. It's becoming a big problem. And so this battery stewardship program is part of our extended producer responsibility discussions we've had in environmental committee. This has been a negotiated bill with the Illinois manufacturers and IRMA, and there's no opposition at all by the battery producers. So this is really some landmark legislation to get these batteries out of our landfills. And also batteries contain a lot of materials apparently that can be reclaimed and reused. So this is a comprehensive program, kind of like similar to getting, mercury, the thermostats out, pharmaceuticals, even tires, having a program where you can specifically have the producer have some responsibility for recycling and properly disposing of these items. So that's moving and there's no opposition to that. Sure.
Yeah, on the battery recycling, are we gonna then be able to kind of add that to some of our recycling centers, like in Naperville has a big,
They have the household hazardous waste.
they do,
Yeah.
but
Right.
then can they, if there's money, can they then?
I would assume
add
they
the
could be,
battery?
yeah.
So will we reach out to them? Hopefully this gets passed.
Well, the battery
or-
producers are responsible for coming up with convenient and accessible
So
collection
maybe that
programs, but you think they would piggyback onto a household hazardous waste?
Don't they already, the one in Naperville, correct me if I'm wrong, they already take batteries.
Do they take
Yeah,
batteries
yeah.
already?
Not alkaline,
No.
but
Right.
rechargeable are pretty readily recycled. It's the alkaline that are really the problem, as far as recycle.
But that's not a bad idea to piggyback on that.
Mhm.
Since there's always this, yeah,
Yeah.
a site picked up. See, Mark Ayers did talk to us when he came last fall from the Humane Society. He had a list of bills. A lot of them are not moving, but this one is House Bill 2900. There was significant opposition in committee. I don't know, there was 1,000 people that opposed it, but it did pass. So it's on second reading in the House. The other ones he had mentioned aren't moving. Of course, every year, usually around May 15th, the puppy mill industry does file an amendment in an hour and it's on the floor to repeal the puppy mill statute. So it always happens every year. We just got to figure out when it happens. So that's on there, but this is the only one that's kind of moving. And then two
Can I-
bills.
Can I ask, how many wildlife killing contests do we have in DuPage County?
They're all downstate for the most part,
You know,
but
I
I don't know
gotta
that for
say,
sure. I don't have a
My
list.
dad and my brothers are huge hunter fishermen and they have never been in a fur bearing animal killing contest ever. Fishing, yes, not this. I've never heard of this before.
Sounds like a hoot, I always wanted,
It's, I guess,
Oh,
very
gosh.
prevalent downstate. According to all the witness slips, they have a lot downstate. Right.
At the forest
It's a
preserve
big
posting any like killing events or
problem, I
anything.
guess.
No.
If legislation actually affects our county, might be stuff we'd like to, be involved in.
Well, this is one animal bill that was moving, so that's certainly, one of the bills that he highlighted when he was here. And the other two real quickly, they weren't technically in our agenda, but I would recommend the committee support them. Linda Zurin has talked at ETSB a lot. They're going to the new Starcom 21 radio network. This is a responsibility of the state to fund. They are working on that 35 million. It's a negotiated item, but she's tracking that. And the other bill, we actually introduced a bill last year that didn't pass. So this is Lake County's bill. We're trying again, House Bill 4440. Barb Reynolds from the State Attorney's Office has advised us that she would be more comfortable moving forward with the county's own diversity program if we had the express authority in the county's code. So, this bill is moving. I don't anticipate having any problems, but certainly the staff's been working on for some time a diversity program with our procurement and all of our contracts, and we want to move forward with that. So this is just kind of ensuring that legally we can continue to do that in case the program's challenged.
Member Schultz, did you have comments?
She pretty much answered my question. It was looking at it just on its face. It's almost like, do we really need to bill for that? But
For which one?
444 just seems common
Oh,
sense,
oh.
but that's.
The state
yeah.
Senator's office said we did.
Yeah.
Because usually when you have a program, it's challenged. Sometimes, not as much as it used to be, but there's still some challenges, so you want to make sure before you set up a program. That's why you did the disparities study, because it shows legally the number of contractors you have. Therefore, once you know the number of contractors you have, you can set appropriate goals. Because if you don't know your universe, you can't set those goals.
What reason have you heard in the past people challenging something like that?
They felt like contractors that didn't have minorities subcontracted, they would. This is going back. to-
And I guess the one word
Yeah,
that
by someone
stands
about
out
it, but yeah.
says may as opposed to shall. May means it's optional.
Correct, but at least you have the authority to do it. Yeah, because in the past, contractors who didn't employ subcontractors with minority subcontractors, they opposed that because they were losing business. So that's why they would do legal action. Sure. I don't know if you want to say anything.
You covered it pretty well. You said there's a study on this?
You did a study last year, 2 years ago, paid for
Well, I
it.
remember the woman who came in.
Colette Holt, you did a disparity
Yeah, I
study.
talked to her out in the hall, and one of the things I asked her was, how are we doing now? Is there
Not
any
good, but I
disparity?
still got it on my desk.
And you still got the report?
Yeah.
Well, my,
It is
my
not
question
good.
was, because these have been around for a long time, I'd like to see, I don't know when they started, but find out how we're doing.
Well, we haven't started a program yet. I mean,
Well, I mean,
Christian,
not these
we,
types of-
transportation tracked all their minority contractors, but we don't have a formal program. We're still putting finance, transportation, public works and stormwater are still putting it together based off of Colette's disparity study.
I know, when I talked to her though, I thought that there were other places that did these type of,
Yeah.
promotions, so. I'd like
Harris
to
County,
know.
Texas has a very large program that we
So,
use as
anyway,
kind of a
what I'm
benchmark.
asking for is, can we see how this type of promotion works? Make sure we're adapting the right thing to get minority-owned businesses, and women-owned businesses. And they've been around for years.
Yeah.
Are we doing the right thing or the right way to promote them?
Member Eckhoff, very good point. And I believe some staff, as Cheryl was just indicating, yes, right that in the minutes, that Member Eckhoff. No, but as Cheryl,
I woke up.
as Cheryl was indicating, currently based off that disparity study, the direction that we kind of received was internally to look at where we're at, and that's where the process is. Staff is working on that. We're hoping to have something before you all, say the next couple of months, just as an example of where we're at in those numbers. So I can get back to you.
Where
after
we're
that.
at and how we got there.
Or, I'm sorry, where we are and what we can do to move forward. Let me rephrase that. I
I don't have that
apologize.
yet.
So, yes, no, we will be getting back to you shortly.
Cheryl's still gonna be here, so I can.
Cheryl will
tomorrow.
still be here.
That's why I'm leaving.
You know why?
She's got her cell phone.
Other questions, comments, member Zay?
Yeah, this is all nice one. I don't see any opposes here. No opposing bills. I mean, you and I talked Senate Bill 3680. You got a call from the mayor of West Chicago and from the mayor of Hannibal Park,
3680?
3680.
That was the fair
Senate Bill
housing,
30.
yeah.
It's a fair housing. Basically, right now, that's a crime-free multi-housing program built in cooperation between property owners, management tenants, police departments, keep illegal and nuisance activity on rental properties. This bill preempts it. So municipalities and counties cannot have this.
Well, we can't have it, well, right now,
We
and
could.
Senator Vila has the bill, and I know our lobbyists have just talked to her to get some more information. But 5 years ago, we tried in Springfield to get, so right now, if you're home rule, you can, if you're a home rule municipality or you're Cook County, you can do a crime-free housing ordinance. And that basically puts some parameters around, especially apartment owners, you know, you have to have lighting, you have to have appropriate landscaping, that they really, Hanover Park is a perfect example of how a crime-free housing ordinance has worked. It has reduced crime in several of their apartment complexes. But realtors and others tend to oppose those bills. So I wasn't able to get it passed. But many municipalities in DuPage that are home rule do have these crime-free housing ordinances.
Right. And this bill would preempt,
This bill would preempt the municipal home rule ordinances that we have now.
and it's opposed by Illinois Municipal League and ISACO, which I assume we're still a member of.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
There's a
So,
lot
I
of
mean,
bills ISACO, and I guess that's what ISACO has probably got 50 to 100 bills they're taking positions on, so I didn't necessarily bring all those here because we don't have time to go through that many, but I can get you ISACO's bill list. You should be getting a newsletter from them every week
You
that
should
has
be
all those
reading
bills
it.
in
I
there.
do read it, that's
All
what I'm
right.
saying, it's on here, but I don't see
But
a
it's on
bill that would,
ISACO's.
yeah, I mean, it's a bill that our organization's opposing. Are we gonna oppose any bills or are we not?
Well,
I
I
mean,
think
this is
because
a-
we're
this-
members of ISACO for the
The
most part.
backstory too, in West Chicago, there's a family that's had over 600 police calls to the same apartment complex. Happen to be friends with the senator, and they don't like that, so now all of a sudden, this bill comes forward. I mean, this is not only gonna hamstring West Chicago, it's gonna hamstring Hanover Park, where it's been very successful. And anybody else who wants to do it, and it preempts their home rule authority, which, you know, municipalities don't like. But again, if you want to set this up, and what's this gonna do? Set this apart, because people we're trying to have tenants and good landlords who are going to keep work with the local police, work with the local municipality to have a nice place to live, right? And people aren't afraid to go to, and like you said, have lighting, have landscaping, have all this other stuff. And now I just don't understand this bill. I think it's already passed the
It didn't
Senate, hasn't
affect the county per se. It was a municipal league bill and it's on ISACO, so I just didn't, it wasn't tied to our agenda, so I didn't put it on, but I can certainly get more information. The
it?
committee
Could you get
can.
more information and get
Yeah,
into the committee? I'd
Sure,
appreciate it.
sure.
I'd want to see that
What house
too.
bill is it?
This is Senate Bill 3680.
And there are some municipalities like Naperville that it's not mandatory, it's voluntary, and that has worked really well. for
Yeah,
them.
it
So there's flexibility.
Any other questions or comments about the bill list?
Well, I brought up before in one of our prior meetings that there was a bill pending in Springfield regarding the encryption of
Right.
Fire.
Our lobbyists did talk to, that's why I took it off. Our lobbyist talked with LaShawn Ford, Representative Ford. He is not moving that bill. We expressed our concerns from ETSB, our police and fire. And it was aimed at the Chicago Police Department. But he is having discussions with Chicago Police Department, so that bill's not moving. There was also a bill that our Public Works Department was very much opposed to. It's actually called the Sludge Act. And it basically, they would have to treat, it was the way they had to treat water, and our lobbyists talked to the sponsor, he didn't get out of rules. So I only put bills on this list that are bills that are moving and that were tied to our agenda, just because we only had one meeting. Stuff's
Yes,
moving.
member you.
Are you done speaking?
Oh, yes,
Sorry. So I am really disappointed to hear that Karina's Law has stalled. But I wanted to also bring to your attention that the same constituents that are in support of Karina's Law, the domestic violence bill, are also in support of two bills that are also currently pending in the legislature. And that is HB 4753, which has to do with, it's actually called the Homicide Victims Families Rights Act. And it defines what an open unresolved murder is, and that basically anybody who is a victim or survivor of the unresolved murder, that they can ask for another investigation or a reopening of the case after 3 years if it hasn't been resolved. Especially people in Chicago, this would be something that would definitely affect them. And then the second one is HB 4754, which is the Data Transparency Act, which is simply to produce statistics, data with regard to homicides and what police are doing with those homicides, and data that has to do with that. So more people know what's going on, because a lot of the time when homicide occurs, people do not have the information that they're looking for. And so this is something that Lucy and I and Carrie, Member Glassy, also met with constituent about, and Member Glassy's not here today, so I just wanted to bring it up.
Good. Thank you. Other questions or comments?
And the bills related to like homicides, I usually refer to the state's attorney's office.
Yeah.
I don't normally put them on here, but we certainly could if you want, but yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Cheryl, I know you said it's a shortened session because of the election year and that you're still watching like 300 bills. I'm wondering if anything has moved regarding the puppy mill that, failed versus I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I
Oh,
kind of
versus
agree.
the animal dealer loophole kind of a thing that we've been talking about.
Yeah, we
What's
can't,
going on with that?
we haven't been able to move it, to close that loophole because there was, and I need to follow up with Mark Ayers. There was a court case filed. So the Department of Agriculture actually went to court against some of these puppy mills because they were really misinterpreting what a dog dealer
Right.
was. And Mark thought they were gonna prevail in court, but the bill to close that loophole has not advanced because of opposition from the mills. Dog
Especially
deal-
down south.
Right.
Yeah.
So he was hoping to prevail in court, but I'll check in with them on that.
Thank you. So have all of our other state priorities been addressed? I'm looking at the food insecurity. Is there anything moving on that?
Really just that local infrastructure bill, that would fund, the smaller farmers. That's the only bill I've seen that would address that. I had talked with Mary Keating previously about some housing bills there,
Okay.
but none of them are moving. There was one that would, set up a first-time homeowner option. There was some land bank to give us authority to land bank, but none of those bills are moving forward this year.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Okay, well, there's been a motion and a second to approve this bill list. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you so much. Is there any old business? Any new business? All right, without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you so much.
She said